Breaking down why this fucking guy is an idiot. I spent a second since I watched the video. Looks like he's starting out either with vice grips to get on the drain plug. If you have to, I get it. Generally, if you have the socket set, which they're a shop, they should. You'll take the next smallest size socket down, and then you'll put it on, like just barely smaller and enough to not get on there. Put it on there. Take a sledge, bang it on. That way, there's a good friction around the whole bolt. Take a ratchet or whatever, breaker bar, push it. That usually works pretty well. If it's completely rounded off, then I guess you can go to vice grips. Or if you don't have a socket that you can hammer on it, you can go to vice grips. Generally, what I've seen with vice grips is that sometimes they provide enough leverage or friction or whatever you want to call it, clamping force to turn that bolt. With a socket, that's not usually what happens. A socket will use basically the friction, and then at the points, just before that tip of the point on the bolt, the socket is actually pushing on that leading edge and loosens it that way. So if you use vice grips and then try and turn it, you're basically getting rid of that leading edge and you're making it very easy for the socket to just roll over. Vice grip should be like one of the last things that you break out before you do what he did later in the video, where you take a fucking chisel. You can do a chisel. He did it with an air hammer, same concept. Or you break out a welder and you weld on a nut on top, and you just put your socket on the nut. It's fine, like not a big deal. That's the first reason why I don't like this video. I think he's doing things out of order, in my opinion, or using weird methods. It feels very amateurish to me, to be honest. This is the kind of thing I did in high school when I didn't have all the tools I needed.
The drain plug was stuck on there.
He continues to struggle with it. Don't care. It's Instagram, I can't skip. Bolts rounded out. He's grabbing the chisel like I talked about earlier. Nothing wrong with the chisel muzzle method if you have to do that though. It generally works pretty well. He did it from the bottom, so the way that the bolt was made, yeah, that's the right way.
Whoever did the last oil change, I want to see Jiffy Lube or something like that because the oil filter's wrong too. Bruh.
You can use whatever brand fucking oil filter or whatever fits on there. That's not really how oil filters work. They'll go in through the center and come out the sides and back into the motor, or vice versa. I don't know off the top of my head. They'll either go in the outside and then come out the middle through the filter. Actually, I think that makes sense because whenever I've blown a motor and I looked, it's always the outside of the filter that has all the junk in it, not the inside. So it goes outside, gets pressurized, pressure goes through the media, the filter media, and then goes back up into the engine, or however you want to fucking do it. Sometimes they orient the filters weird. You can totally use a Honda filter on a fucking Dodge if you want to. Does not matter. If it fits, it sits.
They're running a Honda oil filter on this car. That ain't no Honda.
Does it look bad if a shop does it? Yeah, I would agree. But there's nothing actually wrong with it.
When you guys are removing drain plugs, do not ever.
So this is where he talks about the deep socket, the normal socket. I just grabbed the little ones because they're easy. They'll fit on the camera. And a wrench. He is right as far as like this is. Odds are, if this was a 6-point, not a 12-point, odds are the least likely to strip. And the reason is it's easier to demonstrate with this. So as you're turning it, you don't have all your forces in a line. So you have forces going along that axis, but you also have a little bit of force going along this axis, just because you have all this distance. And when you twist, odds are you're not going to have it a perfect force going along the side. It's just human nature. It's natural. You're going to grab it and then you're going to fucking crank on it like that. You can, technically speaking, do it this, and then if you orient your body perfectly, you will only have it in force is going in one axis. Realistically, that never fucking happens. So he's right as far as when you twist it, you're going to introduce a little bit of that angle, or a little bit of this angle, or a little bit of that angle, just depending where your hand is, where the bolt is, how much you're paying attention, whatever. Most people just grab it and they just fucking yank. Just be realistic. Easiest way to counteract whatever he's saying and make this completely, totally fine to use on whatever fucking nut and bolt you want, hold the top. Hold it still. You will see that on some things where you're again just doing the force in one direction. I'll do this in one direction. You're gonna feel very little pressure on this. This is just basically holding it still. But when the face is awkward, or you're not paying attention, or you're tired, or whatever, you will feel like you push there, and you can feel some forces kind of twisting in this direction. Or in other cases, it might be you feel the twisting in that direction. And when you have your hand like this, and you're holding it steady in one spot, you will never strip a bolt. If you strip a bolt and you have two hands, you're holding one steady, making sure that everything is in equilibrium. If you strip a bolt, you're going to feel it coming a long ways away. And at that point, it's your fault. Are you less likely to strip a bolt with this? Yes. Doesn't mean that this is any less valid or that you shouldn't or whatever. It does not matter. What matters is the other access of force that you're putting on it. Fucking this, pretty much never gonna happen. This is less likely. I have stripped 1.5 million fucking bolts like this with a tool like this. It happens, right? As you get more experience, it happens less. You'll get to feel like, oh, I'm about to strip that, or I'm about to fucking punch a knuckle, or whatever. Earn the knuckle busters part of the hobby. When you're stripping it like that, this is probably not going to happen. But again, if you end up pulling it like that, you'll fucking strip it. At that point, it's just access. If you have to do this, and this kind of comes off kilter from the one direction you want it to be, you'll strip it. If the access makes it better, or this, you can just do that and twist. You'll be less likely to strip it than with this. What I think happened in this video is I think the guy used the wrong size socket, and it was just a little big, just a hair big. He didn't check it properly, and he stripped the bolt. It's an easy mistake. I've done it 1 million times. There's nothing to be sad or ashamed about. The biggest lesson here, make sure you have the right size socket. Or if you don't have it, buy a set that has all the sizes. If you see it go from 8 to 12, the biggest thing in your head going off is, I need a 10. 10's a really common size. If you have two options, competitively priced, and one has 8, 10, 11, 12, and the other one has 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, get the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Because that way, if you ever do run across the one fucking bolt that's a 9mm, or something fucking weird as shit. Same thing goes for SAE. I don't use SAE a whole lot. I don't have all their sizes memorized. But like, you'll know, like, every 1/8 inch, I should have that size. If I'm missing it, go get the one-off socket from Home Depot, or order on Amazon, or whatever. It doesn't matter. But get the right size socket. And I can tell on this video, because when you strip it like that, like how he's fucking talking about, where you put in a new fucking axis of fucking torque, it doesn't strip all 6 sides evenly. It will generally strip one side a lot more than the other. The other might have like a little nick here and there, but you won't see all 6 sizes stripped like that. Could that have come from the vice grips? Yeah, totally possible. I have no idea. But the damage on the bolt that I saw in this video, I think it was the wrong size socket. And these guys are idiots. They have a ton of videos where they just give out bad information. They use tools incorrectly. There was one that they had on a press, They were trying to pop a bearing or an axle out of a hub assembly, and the dude was trying. So here's like the all coming straight up and down. The dude had the fucking part like this. Like he didn't even fucking try and get it perpendicular. Presses work best perpendicular. If you have it off by more than just a few degrees, it's gonna be a lot harder to get the piece done. And he broke whatever it was, and wasn't wearing any eye protection or anything like that. This Concept 3 guy and any of his other accounts, because I've seen him on a few different things, he's a fucking idiot. Don't listen to him. If you ever see something like that, and it might feel too easy or too good, or too correct or whatever, a lot of times the people that in the automotive space that tell you there's only one way to do things are full of shit. Sometimes there is. Sometimes there is only one way to do things, but in most cases there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and 900 of them are going to work more than fine, and 990 of them will work well enough. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. You can make 1,000 horsepower a million different ways. You can take off a tire a couple different ways. I mean, that one's one of the ones where it's like kind of only one way to do it. But taking off a bolt, you got 3 options. It doesn't matter. You can add more. As long as it fucking grabs it and you're not going to round that edge off, take off the bolt however you want. I've taken a fucking bolt off with a pair of pliers. Didn't need enough force. It was fucking barely hand tight. I just couldn't get my fingers in there. So I just used pliers. It worked. So, yeah, no, this guy triggers me or whatever, but he's an idiot. Don't listen to him.